Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to my studio. I know a lot of us are still reeling from the events of this past week. Wherever you are in the conversation, I hope you are safe. Know that you are not alone and that there are people out there who love and support you. There may be some complicated days ahead, but it's moments like this in history where artists come into their own. Creation is the antithesis of hate, and art is a form of love. So let us create more of that. Whether it's a need to escape or just to have something that you feel in control of, art is there for you. So let's make some art. So this is a story about how when I was little, I got lost at the zoo. That's it. That's the story. When I was little, I got lost at the zoo. I spent most of my childhood growing up in Asheboro, North Carolina, home of the North Carolina Zoological Park. I think someone once told me it was the largest zoological park in North America. Now, when I say park, I mean more like wildlife safari. Yes, they had enclosures, but not a lot of cages. One of my favorite places was the aviary, which was this gigantic pavilion with a rainforest inside, with all these magical exotic birds just flying around everywhere, free-range birds. And I would go live my favorite Disney princess fantasy, pretending I could sing to and talk to all of the animals. And the whole setup was just one really long trail that took you through different enclosures, different parts of the North American continent, into Africa. There was a whole safari space out back with free-range elephants and giraffes and ostriches and stuff. Wild, super cool place. I think that was literally my favorite place growing up. One day as a little kid, I was there with my family. They were dragging along something. I was skipping ahead. And at one point in time, I looked back and noticed, my family is no longer with me. Did I panic? No. Was I scared? No. Little Scotty continued to follow the trail, stopping to look at the flamingos and the bison exhibits. I knew where the entrance/exit was, and I knew where I was going. I knew this park like the back of my hand. Oh, that's new. Really impressive for a kid under 10. Had a great time. My parents finally caught up with me. They were panicked. I was fine. Something we can laugh about in retrospect. But parents, please keep an eye on your kids. So let's paint that. Now, like always, I'm working with my same basic materials. My 5 colors, red, yellow, blue, black, white, some paper to paint on, and a varying assortment of brushes. I think to get this started, though, I'm going to start with this lovely little 1-inch lady. And to create this path that little baby Scotty was skipping down, I'm going to blend my primary colors, a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow to get a nice bright orange, and then just a dash of blue to give her a nice earthen hue to it. Right? Down the road. Now I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet, and I'm just going to decide, oh geez, I don't know, where does my path go? It can be literally anything. It can be literally anything. Why not? Let's just do. Sometimes this helps when you do the sound. And the spot where I remember I met my parents was at the entryway, which is kind of arched. It was under a bridge. Yeah, it was like a monorail system. So we have this nice little arched way here. And the path was lined with trees. This really was like Jurassic Park, sans dinosaurs. So the whole park was just a lovely little walk through the woods with the occasional stop at like a beehive garden or a little plaza junction where you could get like snacks and stuff. So I just want to suggest the idea of some trees. And I think just to break up the brown, I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow into it. Boom. And get my brush nice and wet. And add just some pops of, yes, yellow up in there. Okay, I'm digging this composition. So I'm gonna use the same brush, the same color. And just kind of following these angles and curves that I've created, just filling out the space. A bit more swashes of color. And she's giving kind of light at the end of the tunnel, right? So I'm going to use some yellow and a little bit of white. And starting right in the middle of my destination, I'm going to use that same brush. I don't know, I'm just going to start spiraling out a little bit. Very riding into the sunset energy. You know, I never much minded being on my own. Was quite not a very isolated kid, but I was fine on my own. I enjoyed my privacy. I liked feeling like I was communing with nature a little bit. So I think, still working with this brush, I think I'm going to add a little bit of blue into my yellow to get a nice, vibrant, verdant green. I think I'm going to throw, still following these curves that I'm creating, I'm just going to throw a little bit of green right around the sides there. And I'm using this green, right, to start lacing together all these shapes. So following this curve of the road, and she curves up and joins these tall trees going up and down, right? And these trees join into the canopy, which fill up to this bridge, which come back down, which join back up with this lovely little path. Everything's flowing, one thing to the other. Everything's connected. All parts of this painting. Yes, yes, yes. Love it. I'm gonna throw a little bit of darker green down on the bottom, right? I'll say it again, one of the only things that I miss about living in the country, and one of the only things that New York City does not have to offer, is a lot of opportunities to connect with nature, and I really miss that. I really miss that. I would always say if I had a superpower, if I got to choose a superpower I wanted, it would be what I would call Disney princess power, which is that ability through the power of song to summon wildlife to you. to help you, I don't know, sew an outfit together or clean your house. I wanted that. And the zoo gives you a lot of opportunity to experience time with animals. So I was never scared in this whole moment, which again, half an afternoon. In retrospect, I was probably gone maybe 10 minutes, not even. But in child life, especially in parent life, that could be forever. But not once was I scared of being alone in this place. I was setting my pace. I knew exactly where I was going. And I had no concerns that any of the bears was going to climb out of an exhibit and eat me, because I haven't done anything to them. I'm staying out of their business. Half of y'all shouldn't even be in that state. What's a polar bear doing in North Carolina? But to my recollection at the time, I think most of the animals at the zoo were either rescued, endangered species coming from a private owner or something like that. Animals that would not be able to proactively survive out in nature. So there was like an osprey with a busted wing that had her whole little section where she could kind of play around, do her business. The polar bears were much more fun in the fall when the weather was cool. I did feel bad for them out there in the Carolina heat, something that they should never experience. Yes. I think I'm gonna get that brush nice and wet and just add a little moisture to everything we've done so far. Letting these colors soften a little bit. Like a distant, fading memory. Because that's what she is. Okay. I'm switching over to a slightly smaller brush and going back into that brown I created, right? And I'm gonna add a tiny little bit of black into it, just to darken her down a little bit. Now, realism is fun, but surrealism is sexy, so I'm just gonna throw a few suggestions of trees. This nice tiny brush, nice wet paint, deciding where I want a few of them to go. Letting the paint disappear and reappear where she wants to. All right, time for my good Judy. Miss Painter Snipe. Oh. I'm gonna mix up some more of that green that we were playing with. And using my favorite technique, which is just holding her nice and light, kind of jiggling her a little. I'm gonna come around from these corners. Very lightly, just pull some paint. Everything's gonna be coming in towards this beautiful bit of light. This nice finish line right here at the end of the road. And I'm gonna mix up the hue a little bit by playing around with adding a bit more blue and maybe a bit more yellow, just to break it up so everything's not the same color green. And I think as I get closer down to the bottom here, I'm going to add a little bit more blue in there. Maybe even not necessarily mixed with the green. Maybe I'll just go right in with the blue. Maybe starting about midway down, I'm going to start throwing just some little whispers. Blue in there. Blue like the butterflies. Blue like the birds. Blue like the shadows that peekaboo. Peekaboo. Through the trees. I think maybe even to deeper around a little bit more. I'll add some of that blue and that red together to get a real nice dark purple. Maybe even right down here at the bottom. So this nice dark color, maybe even tracing along the edges of this road. Very demure. Yes. Yes. Very demure, very mindful. And I think to counterbalance all this dark shadow down here, I'm going to put some light up top. It was the end of the day after all. I'm going to go back into that yellow, a little bit of white. Same idea that I did with that purple, blue. I'm going to do up top. These lighter colors. Again, just directing this brush in the direction it's supposed to go. But really letting the texture of this paper and the texture of this paint decide exactly what she's doing. Very naturally. Keeping it on theme. And I think, oh no, I want to do something brave. Let's do something brave. It was the end of the day. This lovely setting sun. I think I have one big old beautiful ray of light shooting right down here through the dark. All the way off, yes. Yes. Maybe just so she's not lonely. So she's not lonely, just another little streak right next to her. Cutting through all of this shadow, illuminating my way right up to safety. Right towards a koala-shaped ice cream. And if I was really, really good that day, maybe a peacock keychain. I think, just to warm her up a little bit, we'll mix a little bit of red, white, and yellow together. Heavier on the red and white. A nice kind of light, peachy, sort of a dusky rose color. I think I'm just going to put a little bit, just a few whispers of this pink right around the top. Just peekabooing through all of these trees, just to give it that little extra something something. Yes. Yes. It's like everything's pulling you towards the middle. Perfect. This is a lot of very joyous colors for a story about getting lost. Now I'm going to go back in with that itty bitty baby brush and some really, really, really dark brown. And keeping it mostly down here on the bottom. Add just a few little streaks of this dark color, riding just along the edges of my path home. Just to make her pop out just that much more. All right, so just because I was having a good time doesn't mean everybody was. I'm sure my parents were scared to death. So just... Alright, beautiful humans, thanks for joining me on this colorful trip down memory lane, and apologies for the technical snafus. I'm sure I'm saying something deeply profound here, but by the time I was able to edit this, it was several days later, and sometimes a voiceover must do the trick. If you'd like to see more work like this, hopefully with better audio, please support me by donation, commission, or purchasing my work through my website at scottmlilly.com. You can get canvas and block prints, t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and more of every piece of my story series. You can even get singular graphic designs and my first published children's book, B and J's Colorful Day, available exclusively through my site. Be well, stay creative, and I'll see you next time.